Welcome to For Mannerless Women, a space dedicated to nurturing a new generation of shame-free women who are ready to meet their next best self. I'm your host, Adelle Onyango, and in this episode, you get to meet someone who taught me the importance of intergenerational friendship between women. Her name is Mary. This has been a long time coming, and we spoke about having you on the podcast for maybe 2 years.
Yes, about 2 years.
So finally, Mary is here, the first friend I made in Limuru when I did the big move. So thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
And making time for us. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very well.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know, the weather has been good, so I'm feeling good.
In a bit, we're going to find out how your farm is doing. I just got avocados from you a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So we're going to get to your farming in a bit. But you almost floored me with shock a few minutes ago before we had the cameras rolling by telling me your age. Because I was like, yeah, I think Mary's in her late 50s. I'm not sure if she's in her 60s. How old are you?
I am going to be 68 this May.
You could have fooled me because I have lived right next to you and I've seen the energy and that you go into life with the whole day.
Yes.
And the activities, like if you set your mind to something, you're doing it. I feel like you are the definition of being limitless, which is important when we think about aging.
Yes.
Because everybody thinks that means slow down.
Yes.
But if it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know?
No.
Okay, so what are some misconceptions people have about 60s?
Well, people understand age as numbers, you know. So the minute you say I'm 60, people kind of imagine, how would I imagine somebody of 60? They can't imagine that somebody of 60 would be waking up to go to the farm.
Yeah.
They now associate 60s with old age. Maybe somebody walking with a walking stick, or maybe somebody maybe somewhere in a corner, somewhere looking after grandchildren. Or people don't see people as active. At that age, they see the number pretty much. They kind of think, if I was 60, probably I would not be able to wake up in the morning. I cannot do this. And I'm even seeing people who are in their 80s and they're able to do a lot more. You know, they get into a car. They have got a life of their own. They are not depending on anybody. Yeah. So I think people don't really know what to expect. Yeah. Of the 60s, of the 70s, of the 80s. So I think they look at the number more than they imagine. Yeah,
that's very true. Yeah. Do you feel like your 8 years in the 60s has brought some clarity to you? Are there some new truths you've discovered about life or even about yourself?
Yes, a lot. Because I think when I was 30 or when I was 40, then 50, then 60, then you kind of start, even you, imagining what is 60 gonna be like. Yeah. So the last 8 years have been, okay, I'm starting something new. And at this age, is it even possible? So there is that doubt, there is that self-doubt. You kind of just wonder, you know, at what stage am I supposed to do what? Do I stop here? Is 60 supposed to be the retirement age and now there is no more to life? Yeah. So the last 8 years, especially after coming back to Kenya, have taught me that you can start at any age. You can just put your mind to it and start again. It doesn't feel any different than I was at 50, at 40. It's only that now I'm at 60. And even I kind of wonder, what am I supposed to be doing at 60? Or what exactly?
What's allowed?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were living in the States for how
30 years.
30 years. And then when you came back home, was that at the beginning of your sixth floor, as we call it?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So I retired at maybe 50, 55. Stopped working and then 5 years, I kind of tried to figure out what to do next. And then I decided to come to Kenya. So let's say starting at 60
Okay.
is when I came back to Kenya.
So you come back to Kenya, and I want us to kind of like go into starting something new in your 60s. I'm not going to say a new country, but you're coming back to Kenya when it's like so much is changing, right? And has changed.
Yes.
What was it like thinking, how did you arrive at, I'm going to go into farming and like, this is something I want to try out? Were you always curious?
No. I grew up in a farm. So let's say I wasn't really interested in farming.
Because it was like the chores, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was when I was young, farming was not a very nice thing to do because you wake up in the morning, there were cows, there were chickens, so it was too much work.
Yeah.
So I never really thought that I can come back to farming. Then I come back to Kenya, and my mom said, if you're looking for something to do, then try, go try it. Give it a try. And I thought, maybe not, but because she needed somebody to kind of look after the farm. She was aging, and I thought, okay, let me kind of do her a favor. Because I don't want to kind of say no. So she pushed me into that. Yeah. Then I went there and kind of found out that this is not the kind of farming I used to do. This is different. This is different
the cows
farming.
In the morning.
Yeah. And even if they are cows, at least now I can manage more than doing it physically. And then Washoka and I had gone to somewhere in Embu, and I had met another guy who was kind of my age, and he was enjoying farming bananas. So I kind of started thinking, maybe this is doable. I can do this and no stress. Yeah. And I started enjoying, the process, and I'll go there and they're a little bit taller, and before you know it, they have got babies, and I got excited about it.
I can see you light up even now, But did you know, like, how to plant anything? Like, did you?
No. So we had gone to Embu at one time and met this gentleman who was planting bananas. The seminar was organized by the World Food Program. Yeah. And I sat with him, and I kind of started thinking, even he was walking in the same shoes. He didn't really know enough, but he was very much into seminars, and he had taught himself how to do it. So I started looking for these seminars, like go to KIST, to all these, maybe what are they called? All the places where they propagate seeds, and then you sit in the classroom and they kind of teach you. If you're planting bananas, this is the process. Yeah. Then I discovered YouTube. And I taught myself how to do some of these things. Yeah. Of course, it was not all perfect. Yeah. There were some drawbacks, but eventually, the first lot grew and I started harvesting them. Yeah. And now I'm on the second lot.
Oh my goodness. And it's something, right? Like when you have this first banana, or like, you're like, I did this. Was this around the time you tried making banana wine?
Yes.
Can you please? I had people gone to have to know this story. Okay.
I had gone to a seminar. Yeah. And somebody had said that you can make wine out of bananas. Yeah. And he had pretty much given us a kit on how to do that. But I don't think we learned enough. to do it. Yeah. So I ended up having a disaster. Yeah. But it wasn't really a disaster because after it didn't become wine, I went and poured it onto the tomatoes. Yeah. And then I got rid of the aphids.
Oh, so
so I learned something new. Because I've got too much acidity into it. But there were some things that I did not do right. Yeah. So I gave up on that project.
No, but you know what I like is the curiosity to learn. Like I have found that the older you get, the more likely you are to become so stubborn and set in your ways, and you refuse to adapt. Exactly. So I'm trying to learn as many things, even like now, like just so that I keep that knowledge of like, you don't know everything. Just go into the world curious to learn more, right? Exactly. And so it's so fascinating here. What were you searching on YouTube to help you with the bananas?
pretty much anything. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times, like let's say, for example, you Google bananas,
Yeah.
all kinds of things
Yeah.
will come up.
Different times. Like, yeah.
So whatever came up, I kind of watched that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two things. At my age, I'm not pressed for time anymore. It's like almost like I have gotten to where I can relax. So if I'm learning something or if I want to do something, I'm not really pressured for time. The other thing is because I'm not really struggling, I can afford to put a lot of effort, even financially, into something to kind of just know about it. The other thing is boredom. You know, when you're working, when you are younger, then of course you're working or you have got children, then you get to an age whereby you don't have all of that. And that's where now grandmothers used to be able to help with the children. Because you pretty much find yourself not having much to do. You have already retired. And if you don't have resources to start a business, then it can be a very depressing time. Because then you wake up in the morning and what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, so I think the curiosity have kept me afloat because then there is so many things I'm discovering, I'm learning, and that, you know, by the end of the day, I have got a story to tell about the wine.
About the wine, I was like, banana wine? How does that taste?
Yeah, it's there in Uganda.
You can try again.
No. I came up with that. Yeah.
So I love that you're talking about curiosity, and I love that I have you as a friend because like you have given me so much knowledge. There's things that have been stressing me. You're like, really no.
Yeah.
There are times you've stood up for me, like a bodyguard. But if you could have a conversation with more women outside of me, the women who are watching this, what is looking back, some things that maybe used to stress you when you were younger, or that you were so hell-bent on trying to achieve by a certain age, that looking back, you're like, that was not worth it. What are some of those things you tell other women?
Pretty much everything.
Okay.
You know, so when you're working, it's like you have got stress of the work, depending on what it is that you are doing. But then you're stressed about money, you're stressed about your life, your looks, your friends, peer pressure. You kind of just thinking, my friends are doing better. So at this age, you honestly I don't think that is very, very important. I mean, I don't want to say that you shouldn't worry about it because that's the age you're in. But when you get to maybe in your 50s, you realize some of these things were not even that necessary because even the friends who you think are looking at you or comparing them with you or you comparing, they are too busy with their own lives. So, and there is nothing like now I got there, now I'm comfortable. So every day you wake up, you have to kind of do your best. And that best can be very stressful because it's like people always look on the outside. I mean, I used to look on the outside before I can look on the inside. So they don't really appreciate what they themselves are bringing onto the table. They are very quick to kind of look out there and see like, maybe I'm supposed to be here.
Compare.
At 40, I'm supposed to probably have this. My friends have got that, you know. So that's a lot of pressure on people. But if I were to go back, I'll tell them, don't worry about it. Because it's not even that important anymore. Because what you have or don't have only matters to you. You know, but at that age, people don't see that. They see everybody's looking at me. Now they can see I have not achieved. Like the other day when you were telling me that people say that you have not gotten here and you're getting to this age. That's a lot of pressure on young people. But then you get to an age whereby, why does it matter?
It all of a sudden just stops mattering. After all the stress you've poured into it.
Exactly. Because even people who are my age and don't have children, people who are my age who don't have any resources, people, you know, at this stage, nobody really cares. You know, we are so bored. Or what matters is like, if I wake up in the morning, what am I going to do in my life? So I'm not saying that you should stop thinking about it, but it's not going to be that important. 20 years from now, you'll be like, And the other thing is most of it is material things. And like, for example, when I was in my 80s, I had a Fiat 127. Do you know what kind of a car that is?
No.
Have you ever even heard of it?
So, was it red? That's all I can ask.
It was blue. So now, at this age, nobody even knows what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, but that time I was stressing out because I needed a car and I needed, so today I would tell that person it's not that important.
Yeah.
You know, nobody really cares, only you, and eventually you're gonna realize that material things don't make you who you are. I think people should more and more about humanity. You know, who you are and your legacy. How are people going to see me down the road, or what have you learned that you can pass on? I can sit down with somebody and tell them, oh, I learned how to do this.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, oh, I used to have, or I used to
Yeah.
own, or I don't think people are too caught up in all of that.
Yeah, because we don't know, like, I don't even know that car.
No, no, and you never.
I love that you brought up friendships because I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
In terms of adult friendships and community for women, right? I think I was socialized to believe, and very many people, that your friendships that you start within, like high school, uni, like you have these, you can say, I've been friends with this person for 20 years since high school or whatever. And then as I grow older, like you start shedding.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, this is not in the script, right? And so what is the friendship journey like? Like, is it what we're socialized to believe, that you have these friendships lasting decades? Or as you change and evolve, do you shed and pick up new friends?
Yes. Okay, first, you start shedding friends when you kind of mature. You start finding out that you don't have the same interests, or they are not bringing to the table what you think is important. Then that friendship kind of just dies. However, some of the friendships can stay all your life. It's only that you pick up at a certain age. Now I have got people who went to school together and they're still good friends, but we are not really good friends per se anymore because some of them now have got grandchildren and I'm not there yet. So that friendship is limited because every time we go out, they are playing with their grandchildren and you feel like a dad wheel. Okay, so you kind of continue shedding them and picking up new ones depending on what your interest is or where your life is going. So it's not unusual, but then you can have a friend who you have known for like forever, and once in a while you meet and you have a cup of tea. So right now, I have got friends who are my age mate. We meet once in a while. Most of them are golfers. I am not a golfer. But I can say they're friends, but they are not really friends. We don't have much in common. There's nothing to talk about because all what they talk about is grandchildren. I'm not complaining. Okay, so I shared those ones and now picked up people. And then I have got a lot of people who play golf. I don't play golf. So now I have got friends who grow bananas. So I have gotten new friends and I have shared some of the friends. They're still friends, but they are not really friends.
And it's based on even the new things that you're doing now. You pick new friends with similar interests.
Exactly.
So is there a lesson on friendship that you can share with us?
Yes. Friends are good because there comes a time whereby you honestly need somebody who understands you or who can stand by you. Let's say, for example, now you don't have anybody you can call family and you find yourself in hospital. And then you remember there used to be a friend who probably would come to my aid, because sometimes you just need somebody to hold your hand, somebody to talk to. So yeah, they are those people who you can almost count on, you know, and they are friends, but the fact that they are not always there, you can always count on them. So that's a deep friendship, because then it's like there's that fear of being alone. And like now, health is one of the biggest things. As we grow older, health is really, really. So you want somebody who can who is your age and can understand where you are. Because I cannot call on you to come and sit by the bedside. You're busy. So it's really. So you need somebody else who now, and also can understand what you're going through. Because you need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to kind of give you that confidence, that, you know. So yeah.
Friendship does matter.
Yeah, very much.
What about love? Let's talk about, because I feel like you've given me great love advice. I've come to your house for dinner and I'm just like, oh my God. So what is the one truth you realized was not a truth about love the older you got? Like maybe in your 20s you thought a certain thing about love and now you're like, yeah, that's not true.
Okay. Well, let's start with the good things. Now,
Please.
everybody, no matter what, at least I do know because I know people who are 80.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be loved. And especially as a woman, you want to be loved by a man. So the fact that you are old does not mean that you still don't want to be loved. When you are at your 20s, love means something completely different because maybe you're looking for love to kind of find a partner, but as you grow older, that is no longer as important. You know, you want somebody more of a companion, somebody who can be there for you, somebody who, you know, you can relate to. You know, so love is different at different age. So by the time you get to 60, you just need a companion. You know, somebody who can be there because then what their needs and your needs are comparable. But you cannot ignore the fact that you always need the other gender.
Yeah.
And I think God, there was a purpose for a man.
Everybody wants to be loved.
Exactly. So at 20, you love differently. At 30, you now want a more like a companion. And that is the age where a lot of people probably either looking to have children, or you have somebody who is going to be the father of your children. So that's a different type of love.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to 40, now that person have to be there.
Yeah.
Because of whatever happened in the 30s. By the time you get to 50, that person now is just a companion. You can go out together for dinner. By the time you get to 60, it's like another, you know, he's there. You know, he's there. You know, a lot of people don't even probably go out anymore. But he's there. You get home and somebody's there, somebody you can talk to. Other people come and meet you as a couple. And so different times of real life.
What do we, especially as women, like, what are the gaps you see us get lost in when it comes to relationships, even in the sense of like losing ourselves in relationships or in the quest for relationships?
Between at the age of 30 and 40, because I think that is the age of the childbearing. I think that people who get children before they are 30, it's a little bit too early. They are probably not mature enough. But at this generation, people need to be at least mature enough. They need to be stable enough so that you're not sacrificing one thing. Like by the time you get to 30, you know that you can work and handle a small baby. But at 20, you're still struggling with that, trying to figure out where your life is going to go. So at 30, people start kind of getting more serious and also more stable. But that can create a lot of confusion because some people are not very sure, do I go this way or do I go that way? For example, do you have a baby at 30 or do you wait to be 40 so that you have saved more money or maybe you have got more assets? Or do you have them early and struggle with them? What are your friends doing? That is a very confusing age. By the time you get to 40, one or two things have happened. Either you have gotten out of that confusion and gotten them, or you have decided not to go that route. But at 20 is a bit early. People are not very sure because you have not even discovered yourself. You don't have a lot of finances. So you are going to either rely on somebody else guiding you or being a partner. So if something happens, then you probably will end up with a lot of problems because you're not financially or mentally stable.
Yeah. And you've talked on like motherhood. How did you manage to maintain your I don't know if independence is the right word, but like your identity outside of being a mother? Because sometimes what happens is you have kids and then you forget who you were alone as Mary and you get lost. Your identity gets lost in the motherhood. And when your child is now an adult and no longer reliant, you kind of are like, who am I? You know? But I feel like did that happen for you? Because I feel like it didn't happen for you. Am I right?
Well, I think in my case, I was thrown onto the deep end. I was in my 20s when Elaine was born. So I found myself as a young mother. So I had to kind of navigate through life as a single mother until I was 30. But when I got to 30, I realized that this is long term. So I have to figure out how I can manage on my own without having to necessarily wait for somebody to be a partner. The reason that happened was because in the 80s, a lot of people did not believe in divorce or, so they looked at you like an outcast, maybe like they were not, so you were not accepted. So at that stage, I lost a lot of my friends because they don't want to be associated with somebody who doesn't have a single mom. As a single mom.
Yeah.
So at that stage, you kind of just figure out how to stay away from all of that. And I think that was empowering because then I didn't have to look at them versus me. I was like, okay, now this is new. Now I have to figure out how to make it on my own without the peer pressure of people who are married, happily married. Yeah, so it was kind of just being thrown out there, and you're like, you have to make it.
You have to make it work.
You have to make it work. Yeah.
So you've talked about health.
Yes.
Which is something that is very important to me and also for this show, because I feel like a woman taking control of her health is almost rebellion. Because like arming yourself with that knowledge to understand your body is powerful, right? And so how has that relationship been with, like, for you? Were you aware of your health as a woman as you grew older? Did you know, let's say, menopause is coming up? Was that information like made available to you? Was there enough information, or did you just say there's some changes happening here? What's going on?
Yes. I think we are living in a different world now where you can get a lot of this information readily. You kind of know how you feel. You can go to a doctor.
Yeah.
In the 80s, that was not there.
Yeah.
So I remember when I kind of got my menopause, I didn't know what was happening. It was just a change. You start kind of sweating. Okay, so I also remember that when my periods came, I did not know what was happening because there was nobody to tell you this is what to expect. So I think I have lived in a generation whereby that information was not readily available.
Yeah.
However, now we are more educated and we are able to kind of just sit with a doctor and talk to a doctor rather than just going to a doctor and the doctor tells you what they think you should be doing. Or so we are able to ask more questions. So even for my age or even people older, they are becoming aware of their bodies because now you can ask. You can also, like my daughter says that there's Google MD. That's where I spend most of my time.
There's an ache. You like
an ache.
search
I'm
for
like,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
You have got an ache somewhere. It's like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So before I go to the doctor, then I know what to ask, or at least I have got an idea of what is going on, which is kind of not good because it's called little knowledge, can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
But you understand your body more.
Yeah.
And then you kind of are not ashamed to ask some of these things because like my mother probably would not even see a man gynae. It was kind of taboo. But now we understand that as a doctor, you have to go and talk to a doctor. You have to listen to your body. You have to kind of, so it's different now.
Yeah.
But it was not always like that.
What do you think we should start doing health-wise now?
Well, eating good.
You eat really well.
Yeah. Because it gets to you very fast.
Yeah.
And what I have discovered is that you honestly don't get sick last night.
It started a while back.
We started a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then this is and then now you are sick.
Yeah.
It takes a very, very long time to heal. Because people think that just because you pop a pill, that disease is going to go. Something that you have accumulated 10 years probably will take another 10 years to get out of your system. So people need to be aware of that and kind of look 10 years from now. So if you're eating junk food right now, 10 years from now,
you'll remember.
You remember. It's going to hit,
Yeah.
So, and then of course, as time goes, there's a lot of things you cannot tolerate. The body is aging.
Yeah.
So your stomach is not as active. You cannot. But people need to start early, eating properly so that your body has something to kind of hold on to when you eventually start getting old or when you get sick. So eating properly is good and start early. I mean, I also didn't start early, but the last maybe 15 years, I have done my best to make sure that you are looking at what you are eating, not just because it's going to hit you.
And I think you also, and even like you were the one who taught me about aloe vera and
Yes.
to gargle it. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things you're talking about, like healthy things. Healthy things for me from like herbs and
Yes.
stuff that you can grow for yourself. But even walking, you walk a lot.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. A lot. Because as you grow older, your joints,
Yeah.
so you have to kind of stay active.
Yeah.
And your muscles. And of course, they'll tell you that the biggest muscle is your heart. So you have to exercise that muscle so that it doesn't slow down. Otherwise, you're going to have all kinds of things stopping, not only the knees, but also the heart. It's very, very important to kind of wholly take care of your body and also mentally.
I was going to say, yeah, like now your mental.
Yeah, because people kind of start worrying about, oh my goodness, stress kicks in. A lot of stress comes from the fact that you think this is the end. So you have to constantly think, what next? Otherwise, if you sit down, idle mind can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So you need to go out there, you need to walk. And if you don't have a lot of people in your community who are your age, it can be very tricky because everybody have gone to work, children have gone to school, and you find yourself all alone. Okay, so you can try cooking. That can be, because you're not talking to anybody, you can just. So mentally and physically. Important. And walking is good because when you are walking, you are seeing things.
Yeah, I feel like it even heals mental and it's good for your physical.
Exactly. Because you're also thinking.
Yeah.
When you see a plant and then you think, maybe something comes back to you that you used to know, so it's good to get out there rather than kind of just sitting in the house and worrying about, and then when you sit and do nothing, aches come. You start feeling like it wasn't aching yesterday. Now all of a sudden,
what is this?
There's another ache somewhere. So so walking is good.
Yeah. Finances. Especially women being financially independent. I think that's something you've been. What is your advice to us in terms of being financially independent?
That's kind of very, very good. And even now I'm talking to people telling them that for every shilling you make sure that 10 cents goes to savings. Women are not very good at that.
Yeah.
Because they are always worried about maybe their son, their daughter, somebody. They are always out there to help. So they forget that eventually that money is not always going to be there. So women are not very good savers. They don't save money enough, and they should. So make sure that you're saving a substantial amount, because also the inflation is going to come, and that money might not be enough. But what is affecting a lot of older women is that they don't have resources because they never really saved enough. And now you probably anticipate you're going to depend on your children. And that have created a lot of, hostility and animosity, because people don't want to kind of now start carrying you. They have got their own lives. As you grow older, you kind of forget that you also used to be there.
Yeah.
So this person cannot now start carrying you because they have got their own lives.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like passing it on.
Yeah.
But we kind of find ourselves thinking that, okay, maybe they're going to support me. And then people get very disappointed or very stressed.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, I probably had a mentor or something happened that made me save quite a bit of money. And of course, I am financially stable. And that is empowering, because then you can make decisions. You're not asking somebody else to buy you this. You can take yourself out. So they need to save. They need to put money aside for sure, because old age is coming very soon. And then you find yourself without a salary. And then what? Now you start stressing your children. And it's one thing living with them, but it's another thing expecting them to do for you.
To cater.
Yeah, because they become very spiteful. And also, begging is not very easy or nice.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be a beggar at old age. So they have to start saving money for the future.
Yeah.
But the other thing I can also tell older people is to stop supporting your children after a certain age. We are stuck there.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody wants this and you have to give it to them.
Yeah.
That is not for two reasons. First, you're not empowering them.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. And secondly, you are draining your own resources. So if something ever happened and you're already carrying somebody, who is now going to carry both of you? So this is a stage whereby people should continue moving on. You are now a grandmother. You should be probably going to have ice cream with your grandchildren. Stop putting too much of your own money towards somebody else who is already building themselves. Because they have to go through the same struggles you went through to get themselves to where you are.
Exactly.
You know, so, but saving is very, very important. Money is very sensitive.
Money is very important. As we wrap, because, you know, you came back to Kenya, jumped onto YouTube, a couple of seminars, learned this banana farming thing, learned a bit of banana wine, and decided I'm going to go into farming, right? Because of the very wrong and limiting way we are socialized, especially as women, to age. It's like, if you've not done this by this age, you shouldn't be starting something new. And I feel like they even tell it to women in their 40s. Like, what do you mean you're starting a business? Like, what do you mean you're quitting your job to do this? It's like you can't expand past when you're at a certain age, which is just wrong. So there's probably many women watching who are scared to start something because it goes against what a woman's supposed to do, right? What would you tell that woman, especially around fear?
Well, fear is ageless. Even at this age, I'm afraid. What I'm afraid of is not necessarily even starting. It's the fact that you could start and maybe put a lot of resources and then it fails. Okay, so I think fear is varied. People should be afraid, but then you should be able to balance. Kind of, okay, right now there is so many things I would want to do, but I'm not able to do comfortably. So, for example, don't go borrowing money at the age of 60. Don't go committing yourself to things. But if you're just spending your own money, maybe I won't be too afraid because even if I spent this month money, this month, I mean, I do get money every month. So if I spend this month's money, there's next month. But it's my own money. So I'm thinking what I can comfortably. Okay, there comes a time when even I will be like, okay, maybe I better kind of just stop. So there is fear. You have to overcome fear. But what's even harder than fear or worse than fear is not doing it. Because then if you're not doing it, you're going to wake up afraid of probably dying in that bed. So balance it. Don't go overboard, but also invest. Find something to do and don't be afraid to start. Because at any age, starting is not easy, you know. But it's even harder when you're a little bit older because you could start something and then you realize that even getting there is a problem. So balance and see what can you do comfortably without having to kill yourself with it. And there are so many things you can do that are not necessarily, you know. For example, I taught myself how to ride a matatu. That was really hard.
When you came back.
When I came back. Okay. Only because...
How was that?
It was at the beginning, it was very stressful and scary. But then, it was even worse trying to drive. Because, you know, even up to today, it's very, very... There's so many places I cannot drive myself or go there. So, if I limit myself to not driving and limit myself to not taking the matatu, then of course I'm limiting myself to not doing anything.
Because you wouldn't be moving anywhere.
Exactly. So what I did, I tried getting into the matatu a little bit later. So I can only get into a matatu between 11 and 3.
Because now it's not rush hour.
Exactly, it's quiet. I would rather wait rather than rush hour. So
that's like a wise strategy.
Exactly. I can only drive to a certain place, not everywhere. So, and if you have got a little bit of resources, then you can use other public transport. There's Uber, there is but don't be afraid. Don't get yourself into that fear of, oh my goodness, because you're going to limit yourself to a lot of things. Educate yourself and see what is doable without too much stress. But get out there. because some of these things only look scary from outside.
Yeah.
Once you get in there, it's not really that bad.
Yeah.
And then, you have got a good life, because if I'm out of the house between 11 and 3, that's pretty much
the whole
of the
day.
day.
Yeah.
By the time I get back home, I'm already tired.
Yeah.
But if you stay there because you're afraid of getting out, then you limit yourself to a lot of things. So I think fear is valid, but figure out what you're afraid of and go above that fear. See how you can kind of get that fear out of the way, and then have a life. Because if you don't have a life, it can be very, very stressful. So.
And the feeling that comes with doing something you were scared to do is so wonderful. How do you feel now seeing the progress of your farming?
A very, it's I don't even, like the other day, I'm going to send you a video. I went home and they had not spotted a ripe banana on the stalk. You could have seen me. Even the guys stopped there looking at me like, what just happened? I mean, I was so excited to see that. I was also upset because they had not seen it. But it's very rewarding. And I'm even, not only for me, I'm starting to see my siblings are now like, you did all of this. I came and did all of that. And last year I told you that I did the rest of the bananas, and now they have started producing. It's really, really rewarding. I'm like, wow. And at this stage, it's not even like I'll sell them and make money. So there was never a time when I sat down and went like, I am doing this so that I can get this. So it's more rewarding, because it's almost like I started a hobby and now look at this. Yeah.
Mary has a kibanda that you sell all your bananas, your avocados as well.
Yeah.
And it's grown.
Yes.
I was there a couple of days ago, and the lady who runs it, she was like, so do you want sugarcane juice? Do you want this? I was like, this is so much. Like, Mary has really grown this.
Yes.
And I'm really, honestly, I'm very proud of you, and it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time to come here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and keep going. Your energy is infectious and inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching this episode of For Mannerless Women. And if there's something you've connected with, we definitely want to hear from you. Drop it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.